Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back here with part two of how to help AC Milan to become world class, which is part of my dreams really for AC Milan becoming world class. Now, last night I thought of a few ideas for videos I'd love to cover, and one of them was, as I said in part one, like facts about AC Milan, and another one was another one I thought I could cover is like my worst fears or biggest nightmares, especially for Christmas, as it's the 13th. I thought like I could talk about my instead of my dream version, it could be my nightmare vision or nightmare version, or I think about many things that could go wrong, possibly some of the worst things, worst fears I have, and that kind of thing that could go wrong, especially at Christmas or whatever. So basically, it's the opposite to what my dreams would be for Christmas, like what I wouldn't want to happen, I suppose. But yeah, so anyway, in the end, I decided to stick to Milan, and like I thought I'd change it to how to help AC Milan to become world class. And another thing I thought of saying in the intro is I googled what makes a football team. You could say what makes a football club, a football team, a football club, or whatever, world class. Just to try and find some inspiration, but I'm a bit lazy when it comes to reading or demotivated, as with most things, to be honest. So I thought, so I didn't bother to read it really, but there was like a headline which said, "What do people mean when they talk about world class?" And again, I didn't read the headline, but I think I read a brief description of it, and it said that this article, I think it's from Goal or something like that, goal.com or whatever, but it said that we use the term world class. I can't remember exactly what it said, but as some sort of phrase. I'm sorry, I've completely forgotten what it said. But yeah, if you Google it, you can see for yourself, and you'll probably see the first article that came up was what do people mean when they say world class? And for me, that did make me think. I suppose what would I class as a world class team, a world class football team, FC or whatever you call it, football club. And I suppose when I think of a team, I think of 11 players. When I think of a club, I think of the whole club, the owners, ownership model, sponsors, investors, and especially investors and managers, coaches, and the squad players as well. So I think of the whole club and all those that are involved in the club. Not so much as sponsors, but I suppose sponsors would be just as much part of it when I think about it. But so yeah, but for me, what I think of as a world-class club, a world-class football club, is one that wins not only domestically, but most importantly wins things like the World Club Cup, the Champions League, at least one of those, or possibly or the Super Cup, at least one of those three mainly, but and possibly to an extent even. Although I don't know if I'd class it world class, but something like the Europa League or even Conference League to an extent, I'd certainly class that as going towards world class. Because if you do well in your domestic league, but your domestic league is not that competitive, then I would say you're not really world class as such. Like Celtic, to be honest, I wouldn't class as world class. I suppose part of me thinks Celtic doesn't really need to be world class as long as we beat our rivals. But I would love for Celtic to be world class as well. I think that would be pretty cool and interesting to see what they could achieve. And I'm sure many Celtic fans would prefer the team to be world class. A lot say it's not very ambitious to just want to beat the other teams in Scotland, which are of a lower level. But anyway, I thought I'd talk about that. But as a side note, yeah, that intro has gone on a lot longer than planned. But those are some of the things I was thinking of covering. But yeah, so world class to me basically is winning at least, let's say, a Conference League. That's probably going towards world class. Some people might say that's nowhere near world class. A Europa League. Got to be careful how I say that one. A Europa League. I think I nearly had a fraudulent slip, embarrassing slip. That probably did actually, but a Europa League and certainly a Champions League, World Club Cup, and for of course Super Cup. I think that would make you world class, especially World Club Cup, which I think should have a lot of prize money. I wonder if FIFA could give like $1 billion or even a couple of £1 billion prize money, or maybe I'm being naive. I thought I read that the Champions League prize money was up to 60 million, but I think that's like not for winning the whole. That's for like if you win, go past certain groups and win certain games. The overall prize money I think can be 60 million. So I was probably being naive on that. I think the actual prize money for winning the Champions League is about 3 or 4 million, but I think I read that when I read it in further detail. Anyway, I'm going to crack on with ideas number 11 to 20, and I hope it won't be too cringe-worthy, but I probably already failed at that. But just for a bit of fun, I hope some people out there enjoy it, and I especially hope fans of Italian football, and in particular AC Milan, check out these videos. If you're a fan of Milan, AC Milan, I think you should check out these videos, because if I do manage to monetize them, as I often say, I will donate as much money as I can to AC Milan. On that note, I would love to fundraise for AC Milan as much as I could. Anyway, here goes. So number 11, I'd love to look into like what AC Milan could do to change. What do they need to do to improve? Like I talked before about how they could improve the ownership structure, how they could entice investment, attract investment like Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, and companies that begin with A. In part one, I shared the link for companies that begin with A. But I'd love for as many of those as possible to have a small amount of equity each. Obviously, the bigger the company they are, the bigger the company is, the more investment they could have. But also, like the coach, the manager, and the players, what sort of players could they get that could improve the squad and build on what they have? And what sort of team structure could they have? How could they change some of the culture that maybe is not a winning sort of formula? The new owner, Jerry Cardinal, in an interview said that he hates losing, and I think hating is bad, but it is good that he has a competitive spirit. But I'd love to know what Milan fans think, or anyone who has an idea on, like, who loves football generally, who could say what Milan should do, if, in your opinion. I'd love to see different ideas on what Milan could do to make them world class. Maybe if they got Pep Guardiola and if they got that investment and enticed him from Man City. Although part of me would love to see him at Roma replacing Mourinho, because they have some sort of rivalry. I think that would be quite interesting if that happened as a story. And I'd love for Roma to be the new Galacticos. But anywho, moving on. Number 12, is there anything the club does well? I wonder that it could stick to. I think it has a great tradition and a lot of success, and it's produced great players like Maldini and Nesta. Well, it didn't produce Nesta, but it's had some great players. I was thinking it had quite a lot of great Dutch players like Van Basten, Ruud Gullit, and Rijkaard, or his name is, and players like that, and probably even some from Germany and all around the world that have played for AC Milan, Brazil, people like Kaká. I was going to say a fact about when I was thinking about facts about Brazil. One of them I was thinking is, even though they're nicknamed the Devils, probably one of their best all-time players, who was the best player in the world at the time, Kaká, is a devout Christian. So I thought that might be quite an interesting fact. But as I say, I wonder what they could do to capitalise on their traditions. Like in the future, if people, even though the club's not doing so well and not winning things like Champions Leagues or anything like that, unfortunately, anymore, certainly not at the moment, maybe they could use that as a marketing tool to say, like, if you play for Milan, you'll be playing for the same club that Kaká, Ronaldo, the old Brazilian Ronaldo, and one or two other great players I can't think off the top of my head, but I suppose the ones I've just mentioned have played for. Even I was thinking that I can't think of any other African players they've had except for George Weah from Liberia, who was world class, I would say. Unfortunately, for Liberia, he didn't have great players around him, but I'd say he was pretty world class. As far as I'm aware, he was the only African player, or up to now, pretty much, who has played for the club, certainly at the top level, as one of the top players. On that note, I'd love for people to list some of the top players who have played for the club, and I wonder if you think that could attract players in the future. Say, I've played for a team that Kaká played for, Ronaldinho, and all those people I talked about. Apparently, Mbappe is a Milan fan, so it'd be interesting to get players like that and bring Milan back to the glory days. Number 13, I was thinking of like reacting to scary videos on YouTube, and any money I made from those videos, if I do make them, should I make any money, as I would donate to AC Milan, as it's nicknamed the Devils, and also the Black and Red Devils, I sometimes call them, or whatever. And someone has their own fan channel where they talked about their channel is like called, I think it's something like Black as Your Fear and Red as Your Nightmares, or vice versa, or something like that, and or black as your nightmares and red as your fear, or something. It could be that way, I think. But I was thinking, what if I did try and say to that person, I typed it away, but with my punctuation, the world's worst punctuation probably, to be honest with you, which I do try and change and improve, but I do struggle with my patterns and habits and things like that. I tried to say to him, I assume it's him, why don't you make your own, sorry, he had his own YouTube channel, but I said, why don't you react to scary videos and like any money you raise? But I don't think he understood, or he didn't like the idea, but he didn't reply. So I'm not sure if he understood the idea and if he thought it was a good idea or not. If so, but yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to react to scary videos, as I say, and if they make any money, which hopefully will be an incentive for Milan fans to check out, because the money could go, as I say, could help to raise funds for the club. Number 14. On that note, I would love to raise as much funds as I can for AC Milan. So basically, any legal way I can raise funds for the club, I would love to do so. So yeah, trying to think of, as I say, any legal way I could help to the club to attract investment and sponsorship, along with the town teams. Generally, I would love to do so. Number 15, I'd love to read from AC Milan fans about what sort of things you would like to see changed and what sort of things you would think of would help AC Milan to become as good as possible, as world class as possible, shall we say. And as I say, for me, investment and getting in the best possible manager, coaching staff, scouts, and whatnot is part of that. And I suppose Coach Pioli, I think it is, sorry, however you pronounce his name. I think he's done. I don't want to be too disparaging. I think he's done an okay job, but I think to take it to the next level, AC Milan would need an even better manager. Number 16, I would love for there to be committees and think tanks to help AC Milan. Number 17, I hope the club can use imagination to market itself around the world. And just generally improve as much as they can. And I'd love for my fellow Anglo-Indians to travel, and possibly other Eurasians, and possibly people from around the world to go to Milan and help AC Milan to practice and improve, especially at youth level. Like, I'd love for my fellow Anglo-Indians especially, and other Eurasians as well to an extent, to go to maybe equally so perhaps, but especially Anglo-Indians, I think, to go to I suppose it starts with the same acronym, same initial or whatever. So I can imagine like Anglo-Indians going to, sort of imagine it, going to Milan, or even practicing with wherever the club is based, where it has academies and whatnot, and helping to train. So I'd love to see AC Milan, to see Anglo-Indians and other Eurasians. Like, I'd love to see this for Italian football generally. Where we play as the opposition, but at the same time we're helping them to practice. And again, I'd love to hear imaginative ideas and that kind of thing, creative ideas and whatnot, to help the club to develop further. Number 18, I'd love for people to talk about positive things about Milan and what it's achieved, and to capitalise on its history, as say, and capitalise on all the positive things it does, and that kind of thing. And I think being part of Football for Good could and doing fundraising and things like that could help the club to increase its PR and improve itself as much as possible. Number 19, I think marketing is really important, how it markets itself. I think that's really important to develop as a club, to bring in that investment, which hopefully can be used to buy better players. And number 20, also to develop the youth and to continue to grow and hopefully in the future become as good as possible, shall we say, as world class as possible, as I would like to put it as well. I suppose if it's as good as possible, hopefully it'll be as world class as possible as well. Maybe not, but anyway, I'm going to stop waffling, and I'd love to read comments from especially football fans, and in particular fans of Italian football, and especially AC Milan in particular. And I'm out. Peace and love.